do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams! Yesterday, you said tomorrow. But this time, do it. This isn't the correct words, but you know who I'm referencing. Shia LaBeouf. The guy who was a cannibal in the woods. Joking, that's just his song that people made about him. Hi, hello, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates podcast, and I am Token here. And today, this week, we're going to talk about how motivational videos don't work. If you're new here, you can call in and we can debate about anything that you desire, or we can just talk. Whichever works. If you're shy and you don't want to have your voice, you can click on the Linktree and then you can submit an email, or you can submit to the form that I have. We're going to be discussing weight loss, and if that distresses you, please click out of the video right now, or the stream, or whatever. And if any of the topic regarding that is upsetting to you, please leave for your own mental health. This is my one disclaimer. Today's video and or stream is going to be about what motivational speeches are about, how New Year's resolutions and sustained weight loss are concrete examples of how motivational videos don't work as well in correlation to one another, and the key way to make progress towards your goals. What motivational speeches are you talking about, Token, overall? I am not talking about the ones that actually have substantial real-world change. That makes sense. I'm talking more of the motivational videos whenever you're scrolling through YouTube and you're just like, man, I really need to I need to lose weight, or I need to study more, or I need to work harder at work, or I need to this, that, and the other. Insert whatever thing it is here that you want to be able to do. And then you just scroll, and then you see this really swole guy that looks like he's really constipated. He's holding in defecation that he really should not. And that's what he's actually trying to motivate you for. Not to do the dishes, not to lift weights and get buff, but to hold in your defecation. Those are the motivational videos that I'm talking about. No, everyone's seen them on TikTok, on Instagram. I'm also not talking about fictional motivational speeches that are really substantial, which you could definitely use for motivation in the gym. I always think back, if I'm gonna make a video about motivational speeches and how iconic they are, it would be very empty if I did not mention the legendary Irwin Smith. If you don't not listen to anime, I just listen to anime, guys. I hear a bunch of people screaming all the time. Also, I want to preface it by saying that not all motivational speeches don't work ever. Again, this is a very subsect of motivational speeches that I was talking about. The way that motivational speeches as videos are used is why they don't work. Whenever you're at 3 a.m. and you're just like, you know what? I can solve world hunger. Which, if you go back to my second video on this channel, that was essentially, well, not this channel, not Twitch, but if you go back to my second video on YouTube, it was essentially a 3 a.m. minute of me what if I tried to solve world hunger? And so I just made a video on how far a billion could go. Anyways. But, that 3 a.m. spark of inspiration, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna get my life together, I'm gonna be super clean, and yada yada yada. That's not sustainable long term unless you keep getting up and doing it. And so watching just one of those videos and being like, I'm totally gonna get my life together, that doesn't help whatsoever. So, how New Year's resolutions and sustained weight loss are concrete examples as to why that doesn't work. The one motivational video and whatnot. And I would say, New Year's, what is this, New York? Oh yeah, New York's Eve. I bet Jay Schlatt would love that. New Year's Eve is essentially the holiday of, I'm gonna watch this motivational video at 3 a.m. and get my life together. because why not? That's what I'm gonna do with my life, and then proceed to no one showing up at the gym ever again after that. You know, that's essentially what it is. And there's actually been studies regarding New Year's Eve and the completion of them and whatnot, and the tracking the long-term goals of it. And I'm going to be referencing one of them, and you can find the reference whenever the YouTube video is out regarding it. I'm going to be referencing the Pew Research Center. They found that 41% of Americans who made New Year's resolutions failed to meet all of their resolutions they set in the first place for the holiday, with a total of 13% of them just absolutely meeting none of them whatsoever. No, meeting none of the resolutions at all. The nature, of it is that it happens once a year. And I would say a half-half, that's about the statistics of divorce. Again, I said it before, that one divorce guy, when he was talking about divorce, he was like, if you go into a surgery or whatever, and they're like, there's a 50% chance you're gonna die, you're not gonna get that surgery. Well, I mean, some people would, unless you're like, I'm gonna die if I don't get it right away or whatever. But that's a 50-50 shot of, I'm gonna do the things that I want to do and whatnot instead. Which I'm also referencing the Briticana when it comes to origin of New Year's. I like to think of New Year's as this one random person who is having like a mental breakdown in the 2000s BC. Yeah, in 2000 BC, somebody was just having a mental breakdown and was like, oh my gosh, the world just keeps moving. It's like the days just keep moving on, and it never seems to stop ever. Oh my gosh. And then it probably would have been a woman diagnosed with hysteria in the 1900s, but of course they don't know what that is in the Mesopotamia days. So they just think they're actually going insane, and they're like, but you know what? Let's just give it a holiday instead, because why not? Why not? The nights hit 3 a.m. every night, but that's not why somebody decides to do better for themselves. That's not the reason someone decides they're going to start losing weight, they're going to start doing X, Y, or Z thing. Because let's be honest with ourselves, when have you actually stuck through with something, like a long-term plan, that you stay up at 3 a.m. and have that, like, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna do this thing, yada, 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 yada. When have you actually done it? I mean, I'm sure there's outliers. There's outliers to every single study in statistics. But usually, the ones that, make long-term sustain because they have goals and they keep meeting those goals over and over and over again. That's not the thing that gets people to change. Usually it's some other intrinsic factor to be like, well, I just want to do this because it's something that I enjoy. And I also want to bring up the concept of bettering yourself just out of spite, which I think it's good to, like, take care of yourself out of spite, because sometimes people go through tough things and then it's like, well, I don't have a reason to do this. And it's just like, well, why don't you just take care of yourself because you didn't have somebody who did that, and you still deserve it anyways. But I don't think it's a great idea to build an entire career out of spite. And that's coming from someone who's been very pro-spite for many years. Like, if you would have told me years ago that I'm like, no, I don't think you should, like, build an entire career out of spite, I would have been very surprised, because I'd be like, that was not me. This is, I don't think it's a good idea because it's not the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. If it's something that you actually enjoy doing, like, it should be something that you enjoy doing intrinsically, so that your initial, cause of it isn't necessarily just because you wanted to prove somebody wrong or X, Y, or Z or yada yada. I'm gonna mention one video that I did watch that actually did affect me. Like I said, it's not that motivational videos are necessarily ineffective, It's just that, you know, the one burst of dopamine ones necessarily aren't, and you should really focus on what is it that you enjoy? What is it that you really want to do? Because no matter what it is that you want to do, there's a reason you clicked on this. Maybe it's because you thought I looked weird. That's valid. I'm going to be so honest. The first two comments I got on all of social media was, I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but but you know, that's good. Or not that's good, but it was along the lines of, I'm not sure of what I'm witnessing here. So it could have been that. Or maybe you really needed me to talk about motivation with you. But I don't know what's in your brain. I don't know what's motivating you. Or I don't know what it is that you want motivation for. Only you do. And I think the most important part is for you to like focus on the desire that you want and not necessarily something that somebody else tells you or something like another expectation. So Jim Carrey actually he got kind of serious for a second in regards at a graduation one time. And I think about it a lot because it's one of the few things that have stuck with me. And it's not necessarily that it was even a motivational speech. It was just a graduation discussion. And it wasn't necessarily to motivate me to do anything. I was still gonna do this. It just kind of gave me more solace in my life choices. In the speech that he gave to the university students, he was discussing his father's life story and his, background, because whenever he was younger, he wanted to be a comedian. Jim Carrey's dad did, but he never went to pursue his dreams of acting. So instead of doing that, he decided to become an accountant, I believe. But the point is, he got a very safe job. It was because he was afraid he couldn't make it as an actor. And his dad got laid off from the job that was supposed to be the safe one. Jim Carrey's essentially underlying message of the speech was, if you can fail at what you don't love, why not fail at doing something that you love? That necessarily didn't prompt me to be like, oh, well, I want to have this thing on the side and talk to people and do this and yada yada yada, or just like this. Nowhere in Jim Carrey's speech did I just jump out of the wall and say, hi, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't do that. Motivational videos don't give you the intrinsic desire to do the thing that you want to do, when in reality it's the sustained continuance of those tasks over and over and over again. So that's what I mean when I say sustained weight loss is another example of how, motivational videos don't work. Because even the reference that I'm referencing for this is the Harvard Health Publishing. According to Harvard Health Publishing, they said that research has also shown that the more freedom people have in planning their weight loss programs, the greater their prospects for weight loss success. One study suggested that the people who followed a calorie-restricted diet regained an average of 9 pounds, but those who ate what they wanted within healthy guidelines regained less than half that amount. Now, I know that's probably going to be like, well, how does that equate to, motivational videos and whatnot? That's a big leap to make based off of what we were talking about previously. And while I can slightly agree, but what it highlights is the desire. The desire to continuously improve and for it to not be an unhealthy, toxic mindset. Because let's be honest with ourselves, some of those motivational videos are really toxic. Like, it's just like, oh, just keep going until you can't feel anymore. You keep running till your feet bleed. You want to know what that is? That's an eating disorder, buddy. Like, that's That's what that is. Darly, even Alicia Liu. Even Alicia Liu. I might be pronouncing her name incorrectly. I am so sorry if I am. My condolences. But, you know, the woman who won the gold Olympic medal recently, even she was just like, I'm gonna win it on my terms. I'm not gonna starve myself. I'm not gonna do X, Y, or Z thing. So the desire to have sustained and healthy growth, as mentioned in the Harvard article, that counteracts the toxic, you know, like just do it, grind until you can't sleep, you don't have a social life, you don't have this, that actually you're not even a human anymore. Although I don't believe motivational speeches and whatnot, when those types work, that doesn't mean I don't think hearing other people say things can't stick with you and can't alter the way you behave in any way, shape, or form. I just don't think it's going to be the reason you make a long-term sustained goal. That's your thing. That's like saying, I don't know, like, oh, because of you, I went and climbed Mount Everest. Dog, I didn't tell you to do that. Even though I don't believe anything that I say is inherently going to contribute to whatever big goal that you want to do, I think at the end of the day, it's the goal that's in your brain. And if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. Nothing I say is going to be the determinant of it. It may help you recontextualize certain parts of your life and be like, oh, that makes more sense for X, Y, or Z thing, but it's not going to be the reason you continuously get a good sleep schedule. I'm not the person waking up every single day deciding to do that thing. You are. You're the one who decides to do it. Nothing I say that comes out of my mouth will alleviate your grief if you don't dedicate your heart to whatever it is that makes you happy. But also, nothing I say will be the reason you start. That's my essentially focus on motivational videos and my 2 cents on if you want to do something and you clicked on this. That's my 2 cents. All right, I am off of my soapbox regarding it, so we can get back to the studies and weight loss and whatnot and how it's related to it. Yeah, Token, you love to yap about your hypothesized relations between sustained weight loss, New Year's resolutions, and the fact that motivational videos found on YouTube and or TikTok historically don't work. We know, it's been an hour already. But what am I supposed to do with that? But, you know, I don't trust you, actually. This is all just theory. It's not game theory, that's for certain. But this is all theory. I can't trust you on this. I need a study that's based actually on motivational videos themselves. But guess what? Even if you don't believe me, I have the study focused primarily on motivational videos. You heard me right. I talked for an hour about a topic just because I didn't want to bring up this subject yet. I also just kind of wanted to rag on those motivational videos that I think are very, very... I think it's good if they're well-intentioned, but if it's just to make a quick buck out of, like, desperate people, I don't think that's great. Morally or ethically and morally are the exact same thing. I also just wanted to add more perspective and, you know, correlations because I think it's beneficial. The study is from the Journal of Professional and Applied Psychology, following individuals who watched motivational videos. It stated, while motivational messages can temporarily ease frustration, lasting relief often comes from often requires more continuous or varied interventions. Moreover, a one-time motivational speech might not be enough to reduce the deeply ingrained frustrations or disappointments, especially those related to unmet needs. This highlights the potential limitations of motivational speeches as standalone tools for improving overall psychological well-being. Moreover, research by Miller and Melandrick differentiates between types of frustrations that can either motivate or dishearten individuals, suggesting that the relationship of frustration on motivation and learning is complex. This highlights the need for tailored motivational strategies that address the specific emotional and educational needs of individuals. I also thought this would have been like a really short video had I started right off the bat for this. I'm gonna be honest. I think if I started off the bat with like, hey, there's a study about this thing, that I feel like it could have been a lot shorter, and you would have been like, alright, well, yeah, why would I need to watch the rest of this? I mean, like, I feel like that would make sense. So I did unfortunately lure you into this video, and I really hope you don't click off at this point. Alright, I get it. The way to make progress toward a goal is by having long-term efforts into something I desire. Makes sense. Why is there more time in the video? Why? So, how to make real progress towards goals outside of just listening to a motivational video. I haven't explained the concept of grit yet. And I have mentioned it probably in the beginning of this video. If I haven't, then I cut it out and you're just now hearing about it. And no, when I say grit, I don't mean the Southern traditional dish that is also greeted by shrimp. And for some reason, people have it for breakfast? That doesn't make much sense. I would much rather have pizza for breakfast than grits and shrimp, which I said that incorrect, shrimp and grits. So I think that's a little bit out there. No, I'm not talking about shrimp and grits. I'm talking about the concept of psychological grit. And if you haven't heard of that before, I'm going to talk to you about it. Grit is defined from a reference, I'm defining it from a reference from the National Library of Medicine as the combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. According to Eastern Washington University, grit is important for students because it is an underlying characteristic of successful individuals. It may be more important than IQ, test scores, and other traditional forms of intelligence. And gritty students appear to outperform less gritty students, which this is kind of like the saying of, oh, I'm a burnout gifted kid, I never had to work or study, and I always got A's, but then whenever I learned I actually had to study and got to university, I failed all the time. Which is essentially meaning you never learned how to work for anything in your life, and you're reaching a time in which you have to be disciplined, and you can't do it because you were never disciplined and everything came easy to you due to the fact that you were just naturally smart. Also, this is not me promoting it, but whenever I was looking up the references for this video, I saw that on the website itself, it had a grit quiz. You heard me right, a grit quiz. And whenever I hear that, I'm just like, it's giving one of those BuzzFeed quizzes that are like, oh, what type of grits are you? And if you take that quiz, it's essentially supposed to show what percentage of, like, how much grit you have. And apparently I have 90% of grit. I did not plan originally to have this, but I'm gonna add it. Because why not? Because I think it's silly. I'm not going to actually put it on the screen on that. I'll just read it out. And plus, a podcast viewer would not be able to tell the difference if I had it on screen or not. This is the grit test. Tag yourself. I'm the 3-day-old shrimp and grits. Joking. No. So, grit quiz. Alright. It is a total of 10 questions. And yeah, so number one, new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from the previous one. That's the first question. And for all of these questions, it has like a very much like me, a mostly like me, a somewhat like me, not much, and then not like me at all. So, in reference to the first question, I would say not much, because if I am genuinely focused on a task, then I'm going to follow through with it. If it distracts me, it's like if it would help contribute to whatever project I'm doing at that point in time in my life. But later on, it wouldn't prevent me from being able to do something, if you get what I mean. Anyways, number two, setbacks setbacks don't discourage me, and I don't give up easily. I would say that's very much like me, because I just would. I mean, you don't know me personally. I don't know you personally, but that's very much like me. I often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. Not all the time. It has happened, but if I truly set my mind to something, like, I'm going to do it. I am a hard worker. I would say yes. A hard worker, very much like me. I have difficulty maintaining my focus on my projects that take more than a few months to complete. I don't think I have many examples of this outside of like school historically. I'm going to say I don't have difficulty maintaining my focus on that. So, not like me. I finish whatever I begin. Yes. It will be very focus intensive, and I might be slightly like in and out, like, oh my gosh, like pulling my hair out slightly. Not destroying myself, but I will be stressed. So I do finish whatever I begin. And then my interests change from year to year. No. I've never been diagnosed as autistic or anything like that, but I would not be surprised if I ever am, because I am a very simple token. I like YouTube. I like chip. I like academic validation. And I like a handful of games. Very consistent. I mean, I don't really believe in astrology. I think that's silly. I am proof that astrology is not real, because I am not one of those earth signs, and I very consistent. Very consistent. Actually, I listen to the same music. This is gonna sound bad. I listen to the same artist for 10 years. I didn't hear. I know some people are gonna be like, "Oh, I've listened to my favorite artist for like 10 years." I listened to the same artist for 10 years and actively avoided any other music made by anybody else for those 10 years. It took on that 10th year for one close friend of mine who loved music. Like, they loved so, like, such a variety of music, and they were just like, it makes me sad that you don't enjoy anything other than this. And I'm like, I'm not sad about it. I love my music. I love my one artist. And I'm glad my friend kind of staged an intervention for me. That doesn't mean that I never heard like any other music, like, out and about. This is gonna sound like, I mean, like, if I heard somebody say this now, like, if I met somebody who was like, yeah, I only listened to, like, one singer my entire life, and I actively avoided other, like, music, I'd be like, what is wrong? But, like, it made so much sense to me when I was younger, because I was just like, I really like this. My interests do not change. I am a rock, generally. If my interest changes, something bad has happened, or somebody staged an intervention. It's either one of those two things. I am diligent. I never give up. I would say I'm very diligent with whatever it is that I desire to do. Never give up. I don't like the toxic idea of like, you know, you always have to be productive, you always have to do X, Y, or Z, or like you don't deserve a break. I don't think that's healthy. I think everyone deserves a break. I don't think you don't owe the world anything just because you were born. You didn't ask for this. I think you're responsible for where you end up in life, and you can't blame other people for the dreams that you didn't achieve because you didn't try for them. But I don't think you should necessarily feel inherently guilty for relaxing or not being productive all the time. I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a shirt. Yeah, for shirt time. Talk about going out and talking about them alligators. Yes, I suddenly went southern. We are talking about them shrimp and grits, but I got my shirt out back too. That's either gonna hit really hard on Instagram or not at all. I've been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later lost interest. That is somewhat like me on some respects. But I'm not gonna count that because not every single one of the things that I was like, I want to do this. It's not like I was being like heavily serious about. Because if it's something that I'm heavily serious about, then I'm going. Like I'm very like it's gonna get done. um, either like it's just gonna happen. Either my friends aren't gonna see me for a week, or they're gonna see me and I get it done. Anyway, so I'm gonna say that's not like me at all, because while that has happened, it's never been a goal that I was seriously wanting to do long term. So, and the last question, I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. Yes, very much like me. So, that's the end of the grit quiz. What's the results? Oh, I scored higher than I did last time. It's actually from a 0 to 5, where I get the 90% of is I scored higher than 90% of Americans. But this time, I got a very different score. This time, I got a 4.8, which equals scoring higher than 99 of American adults in the recent study. So maybe it's just me under the spotlight, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go places, I'm gonna get that grit. Yeah. That's basically the video. We went over what motivational speeches I was talking about or referring to were. You know, the standard YouTube ones versus actual important ones, and how they weren't the ones that I was talking about when I was talking about motivational speeches. New Year's resolutions and sustained weight loss prove the point that, you know, in order to meet a goal, you have to have sustained effort and not just watch a couple of those videos and be like, oh yeah, I can solve world hunger right now. What grit is, and how grit is useful to be able to meet your long-term goals, and how that is the key to be able to stay motivated. Not watching those videos, not watching somebody else tell you what you should want to do with your life, not listening to somebody you're possibly related to who tells you what you should do with your life. I hope you enjoyed the little quiz as well. So that was this video. I'm Token, this is Theta, and I hope you have a good one. Token today in this purgatory baseball to create my number awaits.